Covert narcissism doesn't work that way. It doesn't announce itself, it doesn't demand attention, and it doesn't intimidate at first. It arrives quietly, wrapped in sensitivity, humility, and vulnerability, often through the story of someone who has been hurt, misunderstood, or overlooked by the world. Because of this, it can take a long time to recognize what is really happening. If you have ever felt confused rather than angry, drained rather than frightened, doubting yourself rather than questioning the other person, there is a reason for that. With covert narcissism, the truth rarely reveals itself in explosive moments. Instead, it emerges slowly, through subtle shifts, repeated patterns, and a growing sense that you are somehow becoming smaller over time, almost without noticing. In the beginning, the connection often feels meaningful and intense. You may feel chosen, needed, deeply understood. There is often a sense that you are special, that you are the one who finally sees them clearly, who understands their pain, who doesn't judge them the way others supposedly have. Gradually, however, you begin to carry more emotional weight than you should, and this shift happens so subtly that it often feels normal at first. One of the first moments when something begins to change is when you start taking up space, not in a dramatic or confrontational way, but simply by saying no, slowing the pace, or prioritizing yourself. Nothing explodes. There is no shouting or obvious conflict. Instead, the warmth fades. Affection is withdrawn. Silence appears. You may notice wounded looks, emotional distance, or subtle suggestions that you have caused deep harm, leaving you confused and quietly questioning what you did wrong. What matters here is not the boundary itself, but the response to it. Healthy people may feel disappointed, but they adjust. They don't punish. A covert narcissist experiences boundaries as rejection, and rejection feels intolerable. Rather than adapting, they respond by quietly correcting the situation until guilt pulls you back into compliance. Another revealing shift often occurs when you stop rescuing. Covert narcissists frequently build their identity around victimhood. Their struggles become central, their suffering endless, their pain a defining feature of the relationship. You may find yourself comforting, fixing, reassuring, stabilizing, and carrying emotional burdens that were never meant to be yours. As long as you perform this role, the bond appears stable and intact. But the moment you step back, when you stop fixing, stop soothing, or stop carrying what does not belong to you, resentment begins to surface. They may become distant, passive-aggressive, or quietly cruel in subtle ways. The care and compassion they once showed begin to evaporate, not because they stopped caring, but because that care was conditional and dependent on your emotional service. Over time, another painful truth becomes visible. Affection was never freely given. It came with an invisible price. As long as you provided emotional validation, practical help, status, or constant availability, you mattered. When that usefulness fades, so does their interest. Conversations lose depth, warmth disappears, and you may find yourself feeling invisible, confused by the fact that nothing overtly bad seems to have happened. Growth is another moment when the mask often slips. Confidence, independence, or happiness that does not revolve around them can feel deeply threatening to a covert narcissist because it challenges the silent hierarchy of the relationship. Instead of celebrating you, they minimize your achievements, offer backhanded compliments, or subtly redirect attention back to themselves. Sometimes, the sabotage is emotional rather than obvious. A comment that dulls your joy, or a sudden crisis that pulls focus away from your success, sending the quiet message that your growth is acceptable only if it does not outshine them. Even gentle accountability can provoke a shift. You don't need to accuse or confront harshly. Simply questioning inconsistencies, broken promises, or moments that hurt you may be enough. Rather than engaging honestly, a covert narcissist often responds with denial, deflection, or a calm reversal in which you become the problem. You are too sensitive, you misunderstood, you are being unfair. Over time, this erodes your trust in your own perception and leaves you doubting what you feel, remember, and know. Vulnerability is another place where the truth becomes visible. Genuine empathy shows itself when attention moves away from the self. But when you are ill, grieving, overwhelmed, or emotionally raw, a covert narcissist may appear impatient, emotionally absent, or subtly irritated. Support may feel brief, forced, or performative, as though your pain is an inconvenience rather than something to be held with care. Their empathy often functions as a role they perform, not an emotional capacity they sustain. The clearest shift of all often comes when you begin to pull away emotionally. You stop confiding, share less, and quietly detach. Suddenly, concern appears, messages increase, promises of change emerge. This response is rarely driven by reflection or growth. It is an attempt to regain access. If reconnection does not happen, that concern may quickly turn into coldness, blame, or silent punishment, revealing that closeness was valued not for connection, but for control. Covert narcissism is not revealed in isolated moments. It reveals itself through repetition. The same responses appear again and again when entitlement, control, or superiority are challenged. If you have felt confused, exhausted, or diminished over time, it is not because you are too sensitive. It is because something was not right, even if it was difficult to name. Recognizing the pattern does not mean reliving the pain. It means reclaiming clarity. And clarity is not cruelty. It is self-respect. You do not need to diagnose or confront. You only need to notice how you feel when you stop accommodating, rescuing, and shrinking. That feeling tells the truth, and for many people, that truth is the first step toward freedom.